The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
You're hot. Are you serious or messing with me? No, I'm serious. Feeling is mutual. Is that bad? Do you like me? Yes. From jump. When was jump? First time I saw you. I don't know. You're just my type. You think you can handle me? I just feel like you're from my neighborhood. Yeah, ditto. And I think you're hot.
Flirtatious text messages revealed between defendant Karen Reed and Bryan Higgins. As week 4 begins in Reed's retrial, our power panel weighs in on just how beneficial these messages are. And Taylor Swift dragged into the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni legal war. The superstar now being subpoenaed. Also this hour, all eyes are on Harvey Adelson. Bombshell new details revealing new wiretap conversations between Donna Adelson's husband and a jailhouse informant. Plus, passed out porn. Accused killer Bryan Kohberger's chilling internet searches now coming to light. So could they tip the scales of justice ahead of his murder trial? It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Monday morning to you. Welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. I hope you had a great weekend. A belated happy Mother's Day to you as well. We have a great show planned, so let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. What did Diddy do? Today is the day where we start to find out what he did. Did he just host elaborate parties, complete with endless booze and baby oil, to be used by consenting adults? Or did he use his powerful business enterprise to coerce sexual behavior in the illegal transportation of unwilling individuals? Defendant Sean Combs is cloaked in the presumption of innocence as he stands accused of sex trafficking and racketeering. Everything is riding on this. Diddy's freedom and Diddy's legacy are both dependent upon this trial. My friends, we are about to witness legal history. It is not every day that a music icon is federally indicted and accused of violent, reprehensible, abusive behavior. I predict it won't be an easy case for either side. I predict that his protege and former partner, Cassie Ventura, will be the most critical witness of the case. And I predict that the facts and the evidence we haven't heard yet will be nothing short of stunning. The question will be whether what happened was criminal. That's my opening statement. Let me know if you like it. Right now, it's time for your daily docket.
Actually, done.
Okay, fine.
Done. Because you're costing me money. I didn't do because I got to this house because of you.
You let Milan say some line that.
No, because of you. Flirting with like 3 girls the whole time.
What 3 girls?
In Florida, we've got OnlyFans model Courtney Clenny with a status conference that begins today at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. In New York, the case I was just talking about, Sean Diddy Combs, the federal sex trafficking trial jury selection still going on. It resumes today at 8:30 a.m. with opening statements to happen as soon as the jury is seated. And in Massachusetts, week number 4 begins in defendant Karen Reed's retrial. Sergeant Yuri Buchanan returns to the witness stand for the 3rd day of cross-examination, and that is our top story for you. So Friday, Buchanan read text messages between defendant Karen Reed and Bryan Higgins. Higgins is an ATF agent who testified during the first trial. The defense team is arguing that he could be responsible for John O'Keefe's death. On cross, Karen Reed's attorney, Alan Jackson, asked Buchanan how he would characterize the text messages.
Would you consider those text messages, as you reviewed them when you received them from Bryan Higgins, as being flirtatious or romantic in nature?
I would not categorize them to that extent. My opinion is that it's a angry girlfriend trying to set up a hookup to her John.
Jurors also learned that Higgins was at the Waterfall Bar and Grill with Reed and John O'Keefe the night in question and sent text messages to both of them.
Brian Higgins then texted Karen Reed, who's standing in the room. Well, correct?
Correct.
Karen Reed ignored that text, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Karen Reed did not respond to that text.
There's no text.
Brian Higgins then, a little less than an hour later, texts John directly, "You coming here?" with 3 question marks, correct?
Correct.
Jurors were then shown the final text messages from Reed to Higgins 12 hours later. Come to your screen, look at this one. She just writes, "John died" at 11:54 a.m. This morning, we're asking which side benefits from the flirtatious text messages. Let's bring in our guests. I've got 2 outstanding guests ready to talk about this. I want to welcome and now someone who's been in the courtroom covering this trial. We covered trial number 1. He's in there for trial number 2. The creator and the host of Road Patrol Live, John DePietro, is here. And criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Mario Gallucci joins us as well. Good morning to both of you gentlemen. John, let me begin with you here, please. Take us inside the courtroom, back to that moment when the text messages were brought in.
Julie, it was very awkward. I mean, I was watching the jury. They're looking at Karen Reed. They're looking back at the family. You know, keep in mind, we've heard great things about Officer John O'Keefe so far in this trial. We haven't heard really anything. I was thinking about this. We haven't heard anything positive about Karen Reed. Even Alan Jackson in the opening, he really didn't talk about her. So if you're on the jury, she sits there. I could see where someone would think she seems entitled. We know about her heavy drinking. We've seen her on the dash cam, and Kerry Roberts and Jen McCabe talking about her behavior. We heard, and the jury was mortified at those vicious voicemails she left John O'Keefe. And now she's hitting on seemingly one of his friends, someone they don't exactly know. They saw him on the waterfall. So it was, the word to describe it is, it was just very awkward in the courtroom. And as the O'Keefes sat there with such dignity, I just think it's another unflattering light of Karen Reed.
Right, right, John. Mario, let me ask you here, please. The defense team seems to be really hanging its hat on these messages. They're trying to go for this third-party culprit defense, as you know. You know they couldn't get there in trial 1. To be determined whether they'll get there in trial number 2 with the burden of production that they have. But just thinking about this theory that their theory, not our theory, to be very clear. They're trying to allege that Brian Higgins, this ATF agent who's friends with John, had something to do with this. Do you think that is a smart theory? Do you think it is smart to explore that and spend so much time on the cross that they did on Friday?
Good morning, Julie. Without a doubt, I agree with the defense trying to do this. I mean, their theory is that she didn't do it. Karen Reed didn't commit this crime, that he was beaten in the house. And this goes to support that theory, that nobody else looked at these text messages. Nobody investigated this lead. Nobody pursued anything to do with it. So I think it's a good strategy. I think the defense did very well on Friday with the cross-examination of the officer. Also, they're getting all of this. This is hearsay testimony. That they're getting into evidence right now. You know, Higgins isn't coming there and reading his text. This is all coming in without Higgins. It's hearsay testimony, but it's being allowed in to show that they existed, that this relationship, this messaging did exist on the evening that O'Keefe died. So I think it's very important to the defense.
Mario, thank you for that. I appreciate that perspective. Let's talk about the last message there, that the one where this was the one that just sounds a little funny. The John died message, and that is it. That is the one. I remember seeing that the first time going, John DePietro, what was it like in the courtroom? Any reaction from the jurors when they learned about that?
There was, Julie. I mean, stunned silence. I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe if you had an elderly individual who for several days was, barely hanging on, and then you just would put that they finally passed. But John died. Can you imagine just receiving that out of nowhere with no contacts, with nothing else? It was just another bizarre reaction from Karen Reed. But Julie, her entire reaction, I think, consistently has been very unusual, starting with the fact that she was making an obscene gesture at the sergeant for the state police that was testifying. But I could see everyone looking around. So that's what she said, not of, I am in shock, I'm in disbelief. What happened? You were in the house. Did you see him in the house? How could this happen? I am stunned. I can't figure it out. Just that's it. John died and nothing else following. I think that was, I could tell everyone was a little perplexed by that.
I'm sure, John. And we're replaying the video from Friday for anybody that missed it. Apparently this happened. John DePietro, so can you kind of give us some context? So was Yuri Buchanan on the stand at the time? And I see Alan Jackson in the corner, so this must have been Cross. Is that right?
Yes, he was on the stand and then reading the text. And, Karen Reed, listen, it was a long week and these are long hours and everyone is spending a lot of time in the courtroom together. And seemingly Karen Reed just starts to bubble over and she's glaring at him and makes what seems to be an obscene gesture. Now, I also noticed the jury's on the other side of her, but where the people that could see it was, number one, the O'Keefe family could see it. We could see it where we're sitting in the media section. And then the witness, Sergeant Buchanan, could see it. So she was making a number of odd expressions and unusual, she was pretty animated, but that goes to another level. And I think it just shows when she really starts to get angry, she simply can't control.
Right, John, it certainly seems that way. Mario Gallucci, what's your reaction to this? You've been a prosecutor, you're a defense attorney now. Seeing that video we played from Friday, what do you think?
So I agree with John. I think that, she's not coming off very well. Your demeanor in a courtroom is very important and something that her attorneys, she's got two lawyers sitting right next to her and she's making an obscene gesture. Somebody should lean over and say, stop it, grow up. She's on stage. The jury couldn't see what she was doing, but just the fact that she's doing that and hiding it from the jury doesn't show, what kind of person she is. It's not a good read, and something that her attorney should really be addressing over the weekend. She's in the spotlight through this whole entire trial, and it's important. It's important to look good, look sad, look concerned, and she doesn't look any of those things.
No, you're right. Gosh, we've got to leave it there. What will today bring as we go into week number 4 of this case? We know that Sergeant Yuri Buchanan is back on the stand. The cross will continue. John DePietro, you'll be in the courtroom, so we'll look forward to watching your updates online and talking more this week. Thank you so much. John DePietro, follow him and his show, Road Patrol Live. We'll see you soon. Mario Gallucci's coming with us. Want you to do the same, please. Still ahead here on Opening Statements.
Can you take it off, please, Don? I don't want to hurt her. Please.
Just a minute. It's getting listen to me.
Yeah. I'll call.
Yeah, think over. Go home.
I will.
We're shining the spotlight on Mama Donna Adelson's husband, Harvey, and his alleged wiretap conversations. Plus, a legal twist in a Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni civil suit. Superstar Taylor Swift has been subpoenaed.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you got to do that. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now.
As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity.
The federal sex trafficking trial for Sean Diddy Combs is what's trending in true crime this morning. Both sides expected to finalize their selections for the jury just minutes from now. And then the opening statements will begin soon after. So prosecutors indicated on Friday that they will call two quick witnesses before calling Combs' former partner, Cassie Ventura, who is, by the way, pregnant expecting her baby with her current husband. Now, she's expected to be the witness for most of the first week of the trial. But there are some concerns about the whereabouts of another alleged victim, as prosecutors say they've had trouble contacting victim number 3 in the indictment. And they're questioning if the unnamed woman will even show up, even after being subpoenaed. So we're just hours away from the all-important opening statements, and we're wondering, it's a fair question, has Diddy's team gotten to victim number 3? We think the prosecutors may be wondering that. What do you think? Let's bring in our power panel, see what they think. Still with me, attorney Mario Gallucci, and want to welcome in attorney Tommy Pope. All right, Tommy, let me begin with you, please. Your thoughts on victim number 3?
That's always concerning, obviously, because as you and I've talked before, but from a prosecution standpoint, a trial is like you're the director of a play. The judge expects you to have the next actor or the next witness available, and so it's concerning in general. Over the years, I've had victims or witnesses not show up for various reasons. From the most nefarious reason that the defendant got to them to they just didn't want to come to court, or maybe they have outstanding warrants. They're afraid to get near a courthouse. This is concerning. I think with the power that Diddy potentially has, buying off a witness is always a concern. And of course, that's a crime in and of itself when you start paying witnesses not to testify in a criminal court. So I think, it could be something innocent, and maybe their phones lost their phone, but it's concerning when you're the prosecutor and you've already visualized how you want to put this story together in front of a jury.
Yeah, most definitely. Mario Gallucci, your thoughts on this? Your thoughts when you hear that the government can no longer get in contact with this woman?
Well, as a former prosecutor and a criminal defense attorney, it's very troubling. Just like Tommy just said, the first thing you think about is whether the defendant had anything to do with the absence. And I mean, they got the whole power of the government. I mean, we're talking about the Southern District of New York. So they are probably on top of that to make sure that it's nothing that Diddy did. I know his defense team, there's no way and possible that they did anything to do with the missing witness. But more importantly, today, if the witness isn't there, the defense could ask for a delay. They could ask for a mistrial. I mean, they prepared a defense with this witness in mind, and they could make an argument this morning about, whether to postpone it or delay the trial until they know if this witness is going to testify or not testify. It goes directly to their defense. So it's going to be a very interesting morning once we get a jury seated.
Mario, great points. Okay, so let's take it a step further. I can't help myself. So let's say that victim isn't there. The the federal government, is stuck. And we're looking live at the federal courthouse right now. By the way, this is a live shot of it for all of you at home if you want to come to your television sets and take a look. Tommy, tell me, what's the government do? Do they get a material witness warrant?
I was thinking the same thing, Julie. And the problem is, even with the warrant, if you can't find them, you can't find them. If they're refusing to come versus being unable to locate. But, the question for me becomes, and as usual, the devil's in the details. Can you parse down into the indictments, into the charges, and perhaps carve those out? When Mario said a continuance, I can remember my worst fear, particularly of death penalties. We worked so hard, we brought it to this point, and then you get a continuance. One, it's frustrating. Two, it rattles your plan a little bit. So I'm assuming that the U.S. attorney, they're already looking to see if this witness is unavailable, then what? Can we not go forward? Can we eliminate those aspects or those parts of the charge? And so I'm sure there's some stressful scrambling on the prosecution side.
Right. You read my mind there, Tommy. I love what you said about you take another look at the indictment and see, is there any charge wholly dependent upon this witness's testimony? Do we need to withdraw it at this juncture? How do we manage the case? Wow. So we'll see what happens this morning. We've got our team in the courtroom. We're going to have updates all throughout the day. This is a historic case, as you both know. Let's turn to some other trending news now this morning. Let's talk about the legal feud between It Ends With Us co-stars Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. So apparently there's a new layer to all this. The bad blood is now involving the world's biggest pop star.
We line up, weeping in a sunlit room. And if I'm on fire, you'll be made of ashes too.
So that's Taylor Swift performing My Tears Ricochet, which she licensed for It Ends With Us. Swift has now been subpoenaed by Justin Baldoni's legal team in this civil legal battle. Swift, as everybody knows, is a longtime friend of Blake Lively's, and she got the document from Baldoni's legal team, and her spokesperson immediately fired back with this statement saying, quote, Taylor Swift never set foot on the set of this movie. She was not involved in any casting or creative decisions. She did not score the film. This document subpoena is designed to use Taylor Swift's name to draw public interest by creating tabloid clickbait instead of focusing on the facts of the case. Again, this is all part of the $400 million countersuit by Baldoni against Blake Lively. She sued him first. He fired back even harder. Now, what's going to happen? Are the Swifties going to be upset? Let's talk about the strategy behind the Swift subpoena, shall we? Mario Gallucci, let me start with you. What do you think the strategy truly is for the Baldoni legal team?
So this is a train wreck that's getting a lot of attention and a lot of good attention because everybody's watching this movie now. So everything that Blake Lively touches or Baldoni touches, everybody's going to be interested in. So Taylor Swift is absolutely, it's clickbait. I mean, the defense wants it. They want, the public to see what's going on here. They're trying to say that she was one of the dragons, I guess, is what they called her, is one of a dragon. Her and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, were dragons that bullied Baldoni into changing one of the scenes that was on a rooftop. So I think that the reason why she was subpoenaed is to testify about that meeting that they had with Baldoni when, Blake Lively brought her dragons into the meeting. Instead of addressing it with the people that are on the movie, they brought in Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds to bully Mr. Baldoni here. So this is it's gonna be a movie in and of itself.
Yeah, it really is. Excellent points, Mario. Excellent points. Yeah, somebody should make a movie about this train wreck, as you said, Mario. You're spot on. Tommy Pope, what do you think? What's going on with this defense team and their?
I didn't realize till Mario said it that she had actually had some engagement, based on the press statement. I didn't realize she was physically there. So the most innocent answer, of course, it does involve exactly what Mario said. I was thinking about a train wreck. I chose not to practice in this area long, but one of my law partners told me, the domestic arena, where you're trying divorce case is the most ungratifying practice of law. And I said, this reminds me of that. So in other words, if we were going through a divorce and I would call your best friend in to subpoena, just kind of to put a thumb in your eye, kind of to rock your world, or, in addition to the advantage of the clickbait, it's, I'll teach you to mess with me. I'm gonna bring all your friends to court and make them, undergo a deposition or resist it or spend money for doing it. I mean, it's really, the train wreck is literally that. It reminds me of a horrible divorce case where they don't want justice, they want to get back at each other.
Yes, Tommy, I love that. You're so right. You hear about that all the time. I'm sure you do too, Mario. Friends, who do that kind of practice that you do. It's so vindictive. It's just awful and dangerous, as we know. It can be just as dangerous as criminal court, as you tremendous attorneys know. So here's what we'll do. We'll leave it there for now. Once we find out what's going on, what the Swiftie legal team is going to do, maybe a motion to quash, we'll see what happens and we'll talk about it again. Mario Gallucci, we got to let you go to court. Thank you so much for everything this morning. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Tommy Pope's coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, we're talking about Mama Donna Adelson. Apparently, her husband Harvey and her estranged son Robert, their names are now coming up in Mama Donna's legal case. We'll explain why next. Plus.
And tell me exactly what's going on. One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up. Okay. Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night.
And new internet searches from accused killer Bryan Kohberger are being revealed. Could they tip the scales of justice ahead of his homicide trial?
The Court TV podcast will return.
Welcome back. This morning, we're shining the spotlight on Mama Donna Adelson in her upcoming homicide trial, along with some surprising new developments in the case. So on Friday, there was a hearing that Court TV was not permitted to record. And we understand that Adelson appeared remotely as her attorneys asked the judge to grant that permission to redepose several witnesses in the case. And this includes Donna's estranged son, Robert. That's right, there's another sibling besides Charlie and Wendy, Robert. Now, we learned that the newly discovered discovery that was disclosed by prosecutors involves wiretaps of conversations between a jailhouse informant and Donna's husband, Harvey. Now, we haven't heard much about Harvey since Donna's arrest last year.
You're making a mistake. Okay, so no mistake. It's two mistakes. Can you take it off, please, Donna? I don't want to hurt her. Please.
Just a minute.
Please.
It's getting. Listen to me.
Yeah. I'll call.
Get over. Go home.
I will.
Donna's defense team also alleges that the state of Florida made some false allegations in an affidavit that was presented to a judge, alleging that there was a plot to harm Robert Adelson, Catherine McBanawa, remember her, and the mother of a jailhouse snitch. So this is all starting to sound like a Lifetime movie, isn't it? But no, this is real life. So is the case shifting in any way to these other family members? Let's talk about it. Still with me, attorney Tommy Pope, and want to welcome in Court TV digital content producer Lauren Silver, who's been tracking this case for us from the beginning. She reads all the motions and watches all the hearings. Lauren, good morning. All right, can I start with you, please? Tell us about these new developments. What were the big takeaways, you think, with what we weren't able to film on Friday?
Oh, what tangled webs we weave, this family.
Yes.
I've never seen anything quite like it. And behind the scenes, we had talked about whether or not Wendy Adelson would be dragged into this next. Now it's Harvey. We hadn't really talked about Harvey. He hadn't been forefront. And now we're hearing that there are these new wiretaps that the defense is just getting to listen to. They're talking about hundreds of calls. And more than that, the defense is alleging that the state recorded conversations between Harvey and a jailhouse informant. They're alleging that the state is making up conversations because apparently the state is alleging that Donna's new attorneys that were entered after there was a prior conflict of counsel have been helping her to communicate with Harvey using their own cell phones and watches. And it is during one of those conversations, allegedly, that there was a discussion about a potential plot to harm their eldest son, Robert, who is estranged from the family.
Oh, my. Lauren, you weren't kidding. This is quite a web here. Tommy Pope, so let me go to you next, please. So the defense team wants to depose two investigators that were involved in the wiretaps, as well as Robert Adelson. Now, specific to Robert, they want to know about how some new accusations could impact his testimony against his mom. Judge Everett agreed that if the defense has some new questions not previously asked or some new information, the witnesses can be deposed on that. Otherwise, he'll take the issue under consideration. We've heard Donna before on jailhouse calls with her son Charlie as she talks about going to Vietnam. I have a clip for you here, Tommy. Let's take a listen together.
The other thing I don't understand that my daughter could help me with, but we've been looking it up over and over. If things change, if there's extradition from Vietnam.
because we've looked at all the places. I mean, I could go to Korea and China, but there's no extradition. But we're looking for places where there's no extradition.
Ooh, okay. So we remember that. Tommy, going back to Robert here, the testimony he could give against his mom, what legal issues do you see potentially coming up there for him, if any?
You know, I was trying to think what incentive he would have, you know, and that he's already convicted, and I don't know, you know, different states, different laws, you know, but here in South Carolina, pretty much once you're there, with few exceptions, there's not any early parole for, you know, assistance. But, you know, in the federal system there is, and South Carolina started doing some of that, but, you know, unless he's looking out for, you know, taking care of himself and trying to figure if he can offer up something. But this thing, I never would have thought after the first trial it would have gone any further, you know, because it just seemed too collateral. But, you know, whether you want to call it the web or the rabbit hole, the more we see, the more this crowd, I mean, Mom talks about the going non-extradition. Apparently she's learned enough about the law to know where she wanted to end up. But again, this thing spreads broader and broader and broader over what I perceived initially to be, you know, kind of a straightforward family murder case. I hate to make it that mundane, but in my career, I guess that's what it is.
Right. No, you're right, Tommy. I mean, it took a while for us to see it, right? We remember it was the gangbangers on trial first. We kept hearing about the Adelsons, and now, boy, the tables have turned, haven't they? Lauren, speaking of the tables turning, okay, we know that the attorneys from Mama Donna filed that motion to ask the judge to recuse himself, which was denied. Any more about that? We really didn't hear why. Anything you could glean from Friday?
So they didn't mention it in the hearing on Friday, but in the motion. So what's interesting about this motion is I'm getting this information from, it was pulled from the docket, so it's no longer public. I don't know why it was up for the 5 minutes that I grabbed it, but I did. In that document, it does reference that they had asked the judge to recuse himself because of 3 ex parte communications and or meetings with the prosecution. It doesn't say what happened in those meetings. It does also reference a number of affidavits given to the judge that contained lies, arguably about the alleged plot to hurt Rob Adelson, Catherine McBanoa, and the jailhouse informant's mother. So I don't know if those affidavits were part of those meetings. It's not clear, but it is saying they are alleging that there were multiple ex parte communications and meetings between the prosecution and the judge, but the judge, again, refused to recuse himself.
Lauren, thank you for that. You're so awesome grabbing that motion before it was yanked down. You are the best. So let's talk a little more, Tommy, about these depositions that may be yet to come. I'm curious, if you're Harvey Adelson, how concerned should you be about saying something that could potentially be used against you and potentially lay the groundwork for charging?
You know, that was always the trickiest part, I thought, of constitutional law in the courtroom of, you know, when someone could plead the fifth, when they couldn't. You know, we see it on TV all the time, and I'm just not going to talk. But, you know, if you've got an immunity, there can be opportunities where you have to testify. And so, again, back to our tangled web, it's going to be interesting from a legal standpoint. You know, I was thinking about this whole pushback by the defense, and I don't know these attorneys as far as their strategies or the way they approach cases, but it was a little concerning what I heard you say on the lead-in, too. If they're allowing access that maybe is supposed to be limited through their phones or their smartwatches or whatever the case may be, they may be protesting even more on those issues to try to cover the fact that they probably shouldn't have been doing what they were doing. Again, in that state, it may be perfectly fine, but if there's some restrictions there and they're trying to circumvent them, then they could have their own problems. And I never wanted to ask the judge to recuse himself unless I was pretty sure he was going to be gone, because he's going to remember that. And so I think they turned up the heat for themselves, and so they probably have no choice but to keep on punching.
That's a really great point, Tommy. Yeah, that's a sticky situation to be in if you've made that motion to ask his or her honor to recuse themselves and they don't do it. It's like you got to know that you're right before you take on that legal battle, right? So Judge Everett, he is staying on this case, and what a trial it's going to be when it happens. Lauren Silver, do we have a set trial date? You know, we know it was supposed to go in a couple weeks from now. It's postponed. How about that, please?
We do. The next time they're in court is June 11th for a case management hearing, barring more motions ahead of then. But the trial itself is scheduled to start August 19th, and the judge said it will not be postponed again except for good cause.
Oh, wow. Yeah, he means business. He wants to keep this trial moving. Lauren Silver, I know we're going to be talking a lot more between now and then. Everybody check out Lauren's great writing on courttv.com. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Tommy Pope's coming with us. Please do the same at home. When we come back, we're turning our attention to Idaho and Bryan Kohberger's alleged internet searches revealed before and after the student murders.
Where are you headed? Well, we're coming from WSU. So you're coming from Washington State University? Yeah. And you're going where? Oh, we're going to be going to Pennsylvania. Oh,
okay. This is the Court TV Podcast.
Only when I am alone, and I wake up and I see your name on my phone.
It was made from the roommate's phone, and we're not going to divulge who made that call.
So they came here together. They eventually get into the same apartment together.
Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
And I assume noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end, they died together.
Now for what's tipping the scales in the case against defendant Bryan Kohberger. So we're getting some new details about his internet searches. According to prosecutors, they were reportedly done in the time frame before and after the murders of the 4 University of Idaho students. And the searches, according to court documents obtained by NBC's Dateline, include searches for Ted Bundy, searches for pornography with the words, quote, forced, passed out, drugged, and sleeping. So what does this all mean? Will the searches tip the scales? Let's bring in criminology expert, author, and professor at St. Thomas University, Dr. Debbie Goodman. Dr. Debbie, good morning. Let's start with a search for Ted Bundy. What did you think when you heard that?
Good morning. I think Bryan Kohberger, Julie, wanted to be Ted Bundy 2.0. And what's intriguing, if we go back to a conversation we had with the viewers and we spoke about hybristophilia, and we can just remind briefly what that is when individuals become infatuated with, enamored by killers. And yet, Julie, among the killers themselves, the mass and serial murderers, they too have hybristophilia. So there are the murderers that they admire and are inspired by. So I feel that Bryan Kohberger studied Ted Bundy because he wanted to copy him, he wanted to learn about him and become him because of the hybristophilia, so that he too would one day have the attention and interest of young ladies, and that's what he wanted.
Dr. Debbie, fascinating analysis. Do me a favor, let's play devil's advocate on this. So where the lines could get blurry, as you know, is Mr. Kohberger was studying criminology. He wanted to be like you and become a criminology expert. Would it be a fair argument for his defense team to say, well, look, in class during coursework, we study serial killers. Ted Bundy may be one that we could learn some in the world of academia about?
I would say possibly, Julie, but not probably. Here's why. Because it would have to align for that argument to be solid and valid. It would have to align with a course such as serial and mass murder, whereby the students are in that field of study. But these other searches on the pornography and forced and drugged and sleeping, again, I think that was designed to give him that heightened sense of, feeding into and fueling the narcissism, the grandiosity, seeing that somebody else was able to accomplish what he aspired to do. And I think he wanted to be in the textbooks. I think he studied Ted Bundy. I would also submit that he studied Dennis Rader, BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill, and perhaps Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer did use drugs on his victims, particularly Halcyon, which is a sedative and a sleeping aid.
Boy, really brilliant analysis from you, Dr. Debbie, as always. Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit before we run out of time. Let's talk about those internet searches. So he's looking up pornography and including the words forced, passed out, drugged, and sleeping. Do these word choices indicate anything to you, Dr. Debbie?
Yes, absolutely, Julie, because many of these serial and mass murderers, they will either view pornographic images and or videos before the brutal, barbaric killings that they're about to accomplish. And they will also view this post-mortem. They will look at the pornographic issues after, because again, Julie, it makes them feel powerful, in control. They've seen others do it, even though that might be fantasy land. But now it's where fantasy and fact collide and intersect for them. And now somebody like a Bryan Kohberger, who would have viewed, most likely, I believe, these types of imagery and videos, and then proceeded and did that. And we also know he had searches about other young ladies.
Right, which brings up another question I have for you, please, Dr. Debbie. I know that a lot of this case is under seal, so there are a lot of facts, as you know, and I know we just don't know. And of course, we know Bryan Kohberger's cloaked in the presumption of innocence. It's up to the state of Idaho to carry a burden and prove what they have alleged.
Yes.
Tell me, do you think that if Bryan Kohberger did what these prosecutors say that he did, do you think there was any intent to do any kind of sexual harm in the process of these homicides?
That's a great question, and I've thought about it. I don't think he wanted to participate in that type of brutal conduct, Julie, in sadly, tragically, the savage slaughters of the 4 victims. But I absolutely believe and agree that he was on a trajectory of becoming a serial murderer. So I think for him, this was almost like the initial experiment to see, could he do it? Could he get away with it? Could he plan his behavior, as we've seen with all of the searches and the purchases preceding the tragedy? And then he participated in it, I believe, and I think he would have done it again. And perhaps, Julie, in so doing, I think then, yes, he wanted to experiment with this sexual violence.
Wow. Dr. Debbie Goodman, I can't wait till we get into this case, until you can see what's going on in the courtroom. I can't wait to hear what you think then, because your analysis is so insightful and really helpful in understanding what may have occurred here with those 4 beautiful students. We've got to leave it there for now and let you get off to class. Dr. Debbie Goodman, thank you for your expertise. We'll see you soon. And that's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. If you liked it, you can watch it again. Just go to courttv.com to do that. Click on the Shows tab. That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on courttv.com.